A slightly more muted applause for the buskers. Just on a point of information, the Liverpool policy is not in operation because there was a judicial review challenge and the council withdrew that
Sorry,
policy.
do you want to start by introducing yourself, just so we know who you are? That would be helpful for us to think.
Okay, so that doesn't come out in my 7
Yeah,
minutes.
that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Okay, my name is Jonny Walker. I'm the founding director of the Association of Street Artists and Performers. I'm a former Camden resident, and I'm a professional street performer and a songwriter. On a point of information, the Liverpool policy was thrown out. The council withdrew it because of a judicial review challenge. And they are now working with buskers representatives and the musicians' union to come up with an equitable solution, so it's a poor example, I'm afraid. I've just presented a petition signed by 4,280 people so far and counting, calling on Camden not to implement compulsory busking licences and instead to set up a forum to involve buskers, residents and professional bodies in a genuine dialogue on a best practice guide built around a culture of mutual respect and ongoing dialogue. The Council and the police have a wide range of statutory powers, the proper and thorough application of which would render this policy unnecessary. The proposal to licence busking in Camden radically redefines the nature of public space, as opposed to the private space in the Transport for London example, by greatly diminishing the ability of people to use it for informal and impromptu performances of music. The licensing framework, with its cumbersome combination of charges, restrictions and heavy penalties for non-compliance, will greatly reduce the diversity and vibrancy of musical street performance within Camden, turning one of the most vibrant areas into one of the most restricted local authority areas for busking in the entire country, and this is in a borough which is perhaps the musical heartbeat of London. The essence of busking is found in its spontaneity and its informality. Busking is the use of public space for artistic expression and social interaction, activities that a local authority should wholeheartedly support. Yet, under this legislation, the 17-year-old boy who has written a song and wants to sing it on the streets the same day with his guitar would be committing a criminal offence punishable by a £1,000 fine and the seizure of his instrument. Under this policy, an elderly clarinet player living in poverty will have to find £47 and wait for 20 working days to see if a council panel thinks he is a fit and proper person to continue busking. These restrictions will push people like him further into the margins of social exclusion. This legislation criminalises and stifles spontaneity and will impact most severely upon the most vulnerable and the most excluded, people who naturally look to the Labour Party above all others to protect them. The guiding principles of this legislation are actually administrative convenience and preemptive punishment. The complaints which officers considered in framing this policy arise largely from one part of the borough. According to the London Local Authorities Act, the council should only be introducing controls for areas of the borough where there is specific evidence of problems or likely problems from busking. There is no proper legal basis for borough-wide controls. In any case, it's not acceptable to introduce controls just because people complained. There is a duty for the council to demonstrate undue interference and undue inconvenience to people, as well as risks to people's safety. Few of the complaints reach that threshold, let alone in all parts of Camden. Chief Inspector Penny Mills, conflating the two, claims that buskers and unlicensed street traders create opportunities for organised criminal networks. This language is alarmist and offensive to people whose presence in shared public spaces provides cultural enrichment. The Council should also not be trying to justify controls on the back of the things its policy would now exempt, for example, traditional seasonal festivities, Morris dancing, charitable fundraising, protest marches, religious services. As it's not possible to tell whether the complaints received related to such activities, they cannot be used properly to justify the proposed controls. Furthermore, there is no evidence to suggest that the complaints received could not have been dealt with adequately in less restrictive ways. Overall, even with the exemptions, the proposed controls go way beyond what can properly be justified or considered proportionate by reference to the evidence. Buskers act as civic lighthouses. We give directions, we break up fights, we call the police when we spot trouble, we talk to the lonely, we create moments of enjoyment between strangers and contribute to the social and cultural enrichment of shared urban spaces. We are an integral part of the ecology of the streets. We care deeply about the well-being of the places where we perform. But even though this policy has the greatest impact upon us, we've had no part in drawing it together. Instead, it's been imposed upon us like an oversized sledgehammer onto a small nut. It's for this reason that I ask you with urgency and with great respect to withdraw this policy and to think again.